right, let's go.
Growing up, we were taught that we had the ability and the privilege to help other people. My name is Lori, and I'm an employee of Bristol-Myers Squibb. I grew up in a place called Potomac, Maryland. I had very specific interests, and I was very passionate about those interests. I took ballet and jazz and tap, and I did that for 9 years. My first passion was to be an actress. I think around 4 years old, I started talking about it. And I had a mother who was an activist and an advocate throughout most of my life. That's where I learned a little bit of what it was like to try to make a difference with social issues and justice. In the 80s, I went to the University of Maryland, and several of my friends started getting sick with a disease that there was not a name for. It was called HTLV-3 at the time, and it ended up being HIV/AIDS. I was concerned about the way my friends were being treated. And so I decided, without a science background, without a health background, that I could make a difference. And the only way that I knew about making a difference was to go to the National Institutes of Health. I applied for a job, and I got it. And it was a job as a clerk typist, but I couldn't type. So I had 1 week to learn how to type, passed the test, and I started in Tony Fauci's lab, and Tony Fauci is the head of infectious diseases at NIH still to this day, and one of the preeminent leaders in HIV and AIDS in the world. I started having daily contact with the patients in the clinical center at NIH. I went in and I sat and I just talked to people, and I got to know patients. I arrived at BMS in February of 1998. Hi, you guys.
Hey, Lori, how are you?
Good. 3.5 years ago, I was given the opportunity to start a new team at BMS, and that is the Clinical Trials Advocacy Group. And I invite patients and advocacy organizations for the diseases that we're working on at BMS to come to BMS to tell us what their obstacles are as patients, as caregivers, if they've been in clinical trials, what worked well, what didn't work well for them, so that we learn how to do things better.
Since Lori has taken on the role, her group really has been at the forefront of making sure that we connect patients to clinical trials, and that we understand when we're developing clinical trials what a patient needs are.
Working with Lori over the years, I've really seen an impact that she's had when she brings in the voice of others. She truly has brought the voice of the voiceless into our work at BMS.
When can I see some more of it?
She has a great, huge personality and so much enthusiasm for the work she does. I think it's really interesting for me personally to have worked with such a visionary, and not only just to have the vision, but also that energy to push forward and to actually have tangible results.
I really love what I do because I go to work every day and I help make a difference. I think that's really when you start. I love it because I work with some of the brightest, most dynamic people. And you can't say that about every job that you have, but I can. I work at Bristol-Myers Squibb because I like being able to give a voice to the voiceless.